Hi everyone, I'm Alicia Fioretta of Retail TouchPoints, and I have joining me right now Laura Davis-Taylor of Max Media.
Hi.
Laura, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
So we're here at the Fashion Digital New York show, which is one of the key events to really learn about the upcoming trends and of course best practices for the year ahead. So to start out our conversation, what do you think have been the key trends of 2015, and more importantly, what have been almost the missed opportunities for retailers?
Interesting question. We talk about the omnichannel thing all the time, and people are just starting to crack it. We're finally starting to see people who are really realizing shoppers don't live in digital or physical. Physical is digital now. We don't go shopping, we're always shopping, right? So it's really about creating the right behaviors. And we've seen a lot of progress in e-commerce firms or e-commerce people starting to work with the digital people in the stores, and social people starting to work with the stores, and the people in sponsorships starting to come up with better stuff for motivating behaviors in the stores. All of it has to come together because the customer has one experience. It's not channel-based experiences. So a lot of things have really worked well. We're starting to see how do we incent people's interest. How do we start to use digital to get them to do something from that interest? How do we create more buying behaviors from that? How do we start to track what they are and are not liking? And how do we start to really take them into a relationship level that is not based on price?
Right. And I think you bring up a really great point in terms of all the teams kind of coming together, because when we first started covering Omnichannel, we're thinking about these big retail organizations that have their own disparate departments, and now I think we're starting to see the progress of people trying to come together, but it seems like it's a really big learning process to kind of change that siloed frame of mind.
Yep. Data is the ticket, isn't it? Data is irrefutable. If we know what people are doing, not what they're saying, but what they're doing, we can follow the breadcrumbs. And that's a huge cataclysmic shift for retailers if you think about it, because we were all raised on the 4 Ps: product, price, place, promotion, and that's really blown up now. These different disparate groups cannot work in different ecosystems. They just can't. We all have to be gathered around that shopper, around that customer, and we all have to understand what isn't working for them, what do they want, what do they not even know that they want, how do we serve them better, how do we take off the crowns that we've always put on our heads when it comes to what are we gonna do at retail, and pick up a tray and start to serve them. So there's some shining lights, and I think that Angela Ahrens with Apple is a great one. Look what she did with Burberry, and if you go and look at her videos for how did they really create a customer experience that people just adore, that is really inspirational because there was no silos in play there.
Yeah.
It's all about digital.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think she helped create this really great experience for the brand that aligned with the heritage, right? I mean, you see Burberry, you see that plaid, or even just the logo, you have the strong history, the heritage there, but they still embrace that new technology, and they seem to be pushing the limits in a lot of ways. So I think other retailers need to kind of take cues from brands like that.
Yeah, and there's emotional currency to it. And we talk about that a lot. All of the digital is part of an experience. And the experience doesn't live in a bubble just because it's digital. It's around everything tactile, it's multi-sensory. There's people feeling things they don't even know that they're feeling. And what's beautiful about what they did is they were really able to tap into that emotional currency and say, hey, this experience everywhere it is, it needs to be as ideal as possible based on where that shopper is at that moment. If they're online, what's going to add value? If they're in store, what's going to add value? If they're out and about in life, what's going to add value? And think empathetically in that customer's shoes and serve them accordingly. So all the new things starting to hit that we're playing with, that a lot of retailers are looking at, the beacons, more enhanced apps, things that are even gamifying some of these things, things that are incenting social shout outs, things that are inspiring people through different things. It all comes together, and how's your brand gonna come to a very unique experience, not just a brand promise.
Right now, I think all retailers and brands are thinking about holiday, either refining their holiday plans or starting to roll them out, and of course planning for 2016. So to that end, what do you think are the key, not only the key trends, but what are some best practices or tips that you can provide to the retailers watching this video now who may be in the midst of the process?
Okay, so the reality is we know that a lot of brands have to be in stores and they're paid to be in stores with their presence. That's just how shopper marketing works. It's promotional 101. At the same time, people have a phone. If they want to learn what is the network saying, what's the crowd saying, what's interesting really, not because it's being paid for, but because the world finds it interesting, they're going to look on their phone. So I really challenge everybody to think about, with some different type of digital apertures, how can you put recommendations that are crowdsourced, not paid sourced, to inspire people. There's a sense of confidence that's just, you can't argue the facts. I think the most recent thing I saw, I can't believe who it was from, but 81% of people trust the crowd more than the ad.
Right.
And the other thing we talk about, because I've got such a big advertising background, is an ad is only an ad until it's relevant and helpful and meaningful. So how do we start to use these social shout outs to serve these people and want to get them to add one more thing in the basket and maybe talk about it and love your brand a little bit more, because you were operating from a high road. You knew that they wanted to see something that wasn't paid for. You're bringing it to them so they didn't have to pick up their phone and dig for it. It's about inspiration, it's about connection, and I used the word before, radiating that social from every channel, so that connecting the tribe together, connecting people together that love your brand to incite more buying behaviors.
Oh, that's great, Laura. And I think, driving that inspiration, that connection, that community is definitely going to be key, not only during the holiday season, but moving forward. So I appreciate you again so much for taking the time out to speak with me today.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone out there for watching.